Good afternoon, everyone. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can,
Good.
Grace.
Yes, we can, Grace.
Yeah.
I'm having some technical issues at 1 minute before the webinar was about to start, so apologies about this. I'm joining on my phone and restarting my computer, so bear with me. However, I believe we do have most people on the call. I can't actually see, so if any colleagues from NHS Finance could let me know and let people in as I just start the meeting, that would be fantastic. So I think, yeah, we're 1 minute past, so we'll get started, and we will be recording the session as well for anyone that's late to join, or if anyone's not actually able to join live. So good afternoon, thank you for joining, everyone. We've got the 1 hour session today just to talk about the CIMA Fast Track programme and to answer some of your questions in terms of the application process and the scheme itself. Just to give a little bit of background, following a successful pilot scheme that we actually ran with CIMA on this fast track programme early this year, we're really pleased to be developing this offering again in partnership with CIMA and for us to be able to offer this again to the NHS Finance community, we just need to make sure that we do have enough interest from those keen to apply ahead of signing this off. However, it's clear from today that we do have enough interest. I think I checked before joining, and we had over 70 people accepted to attending today. I can't actually see how many people are here now, but hopefully we've got most of you attending, which is fantastic. So we are aiming to open and launch the application for the programme Monday next week, which is the 14th. And this will mean that people will have just over 3 weeks to submit their application. We will go into a bit more detail around the application process during the session today, but I just thought that would be useful to know. And there is a proposed deadline for this by Friday, the 2nd of December. So the programme itself, it's been set up to aim to provide an opportunity to help individuals on their journey to achieving full CIMA qualification. And this is by using your experience to date to apply for exam exemptions. So what the scheme actually does is it fast tracks an individual's process on their CIMA qualification journey. So this is actually particularly useful for anyone who's been unable or found it difficult to sit exams to date, or who may have been disadvantaged in any way. And yeah, we'll go into more detail around that shortly. So I haven't actually introduced myself yet, so apologies. My name's Grace Lovelady, and I am the programme manager for the National Finance Academy within the One NHS Finance Central team. Our two speakers for today are Nicole Smart from CIMA and also Edward John from Frimley Health NHS Foundation Trust. So but before I hand over to those guys, let me just quickly run through some housekeeping. As mentioned, we'll be recording the session. And so for everyone that's joining live now, if you could just mute yourselves during the presentations, that would be fantastic. However, we will facilitate Q&A following both Nicole and Edward's slides. So if you could just raise your hands when prompted, or if you post them in the chat box, I'll try and work out a way to pick those up, or I'm sure one of my colleagues will help with that as well. We will be circulating full information about the programme, including a brochure that details all the application process and all the documents that you need to submit an application. And we'll do so hopefully by the end of this week, ahead of the applications launching on Monday. So we'll circulate those to everyone attending today by email, and we'll also update the One NHS Finance website with that information as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'll now hand over to Nicole from CIMA, who will talk through the CIMA qualification, including this scheme and what actually follows after completion of the scheme. So thanks, and over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Grace. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session today. So the agenda is going to be around why CIMA, why management accounting, the Accelerate Route programme, and the different options that are available to you once you complete the bespoke training element of the programme to complete the qualification and become a CMA, CGMA designated member, and then the next steps, which is really handing you over to Edward. So if many of you aren't aware, CIMA went into partnership with the Association of CPAs in 2017 and created the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. As you can see on the slide, this hasn't impacted the separate relevance of the two entities, being CIMA and AICPA in terms of their roles and relevance within the profession. But what it really has done is driven the core agenda around learning and development for our members and created a wealth of resources to support your continued professional development as you pursue your journey of being finance professionals. Underpinning all of this is our stance on powering trust, opportunity, and prosperity for all. So when we talk about management accounting, as you can see on the slide, it's much more than just finance accounting. It's around being guided critical business decisions, being an expert within business and finance, providing strong leadership and management skills. In a nutshell, it's about being much more than numbers, influencing decision makers to deliver solutions and creating value within the NHS. Oops. In terms of what that looks like in terms from an NHS perspective, it's around the cost of managing care, budgeting and forecasting within the NHS, analysing financial aspects of hospital activity, and implementing technologies that's going to make you effective and efficient finance professionals. So let's look at the accelerated route program. Now, as you can see on the slide, this is our CGMA competency framework. CGMA stands for the Chartered Global Management Accounts, and it's broken down into 5 elements. Obviously, the technical element around accounting, then your business skills, and that's really focusing on your commercial acumen, being able to mitigate internal and external risks for your organization. The third element is around your people skills, how you can communicate financial information to non-finance individuals, and that's starkly relevant within the NHS because you guys know, the people-facing element around healthcare professionals are the crux of around everything you do and what drives decision making. So to be able to engage with those stakeholders and then to have confidence that you understand what their driving priorities are and how to articulate that in a financial way is really important and articulates the success of the organizations that you work for. The leadership element is around having that holistic perspective. By having that holistic perspective, you become that trusted advisor because people understand and trust that the recommendations that you're making is taking into account what's driving their key decision making process within the roles that they do. And at the heart of this is digital skills. So we're not asking you to become AI specialists, but it's how you can harness your digital acumen to become more effective within a finance remit. And wrapped around all of that is your ethics, integrity, and continued professionalism. To me, that's your voice of conscience in terms of decisions that you make and making sure that they're the right decisions. Now, within this slide, we've got the NHS finance competencies, and these skill sets are what you are going to align or have to demonstrate to be considered for the program. And as you can see, there's direct alignment between the CGMA competency framework and the NHS competency framework. Now, this slide really captures or builds on what I was talking about regarding that digital piece that sits at the heart of our competency framework. This really signifies to you that these skill sets are not focused on one pillar or one level of our qualification. It's right across the piece. And it ensures as students that you stay ahead of the curve and includes content like digital costing, digital strategy, data analytics. So this is the evolution of accelerated students. And as mentioned at the beginning of the session, because you are approved to study the qualification through your experience, we call it the experiential route, you've got 3 avenues to do that: the operational level, the management level, and the strategic level. And these really just provides some oversight on the types of skills that you'll be able to demonstrate and deliver on as you progress through the qualification. So within the operational element, you're looking at managing processes, applying accounting rules. You progress on to management, and you're looking at the fundamentals around leadership, creation of value, and risk and control. The third element is around the strategic level, and that's look at strategic processing, risk and decision making. This is before you become qualified and obtain your ACMA, CGMA designation. And as I mentioned before, your journey of learning does not stop there. It's around developing yourself, becoming a specialist in the roles that you find of greatest interest through the support that ourselves and One Finance can provide for you. So let's look at the our qualification in its entirety before we start looking at the different entry points. So the CIMA qualification, as you can see, comprises of 2 main elements. The first is our certificate in business accounting, and that comprises of 4 modules that you can take on demand throughout the year once you've completed your training. Okay, you then progress on to the professional qualification, and then you have the operational level, the management level, and the strategic level. And that's what we're going to concentrate on, because that's where the Accelerate Route program focuses. So through the experiential route process, the first element of entry is the operational level. So over a 6-week period, you will have bespoke training that will prepare you for the operational case study exam, which is due to take place in May. Now, for individuals that are considering this entry point, as the slide says, you need a minimum of 5 years experience. You will get exemptions from 7 of the modules included and up to the objective test exam. So the only examination that you sit is the operational case study. On completion of the operational case study, or successful completion of the operational case study, you are then awarded the diploma in management accounting. And that's quite unique to CIMA in the sense of providing us students with certification as they progress through the qualification. Okay, we now move on to the management element. So for those of you that are considering applying for a management entry route through your experience, this is what the process looks like. So as you can see here, you need a minimum of 7 years relevant experience. So you will be awarded 11 exemptions, which is up to and including the objective test exams at management level. So the first exam you will sit and take again in May would be the management case study. And on successful completion of that, you will then be awarded a diploma in management accounts. Now, the last entry point is what we call our CFO program. And this is for senior managers that have at least 10 years experience within finance and business. You will be awarded 15 exemptions from the CIMA CGMA qualification. There is preparatory workshops which run over four weeks. just to prepare you to take and successfully pass the strategic case study. Upon completion of the strategic case study successfully, you are automatically awarded a fellowship. So you get the FCMA, CGMA designations. Now, with all of these entry points, you need a minimum of 3 years relevant experience. So part of the process, and we factor this in terms of those of you that would be approved, because the minimum we're asking for is 5 at operational level. By default, you should be able to demonstrate the minimum 3 years experience to get your ACMA, FCMA designation, depending on your entry points. So please do not be overly concerned about that. So let's go, let's deep dive a bit more into how you can take the exams and the flexibilities that currently exist and the options that you have once you complete the bespoke training to progress your studies and ultimately qualify. So as the slide says, we've got over 6,000 Pearson VUE centres worldwide. And that is not only exam based, but you've also got the remote testing option once you complete your bespoke training and successfully pass your relevant case study exam. Now, the objective test on the professional qualification standard route are on demand. So for instance, E1, P1, F1, well, no, not, sorry, E2, P2, F2, for instance, for the management case study, after you've completed the operational case study exam would be on demand. So immense amount of flexibility for you. You basically study the content in preparation to take those exams. And then you have the subsequent case studies. So each of you are coming in at a case study entry point, but for the operational level, once you successfully pass those exams, you still got the management and case study exams to complete. They're windowed 4 times a year, February, May, August and November. So again, there's an element of flexibility. So the real message here is that you're not going to be, as resources for your trust, you're not going to be lost to exam windows per se because of the flexibility around the objective test exams, which are on demand, and the case study exams, which are quarterly. Okay. In terms of what you'll be focusing on in each of the pillars, you're looking for the finance pillar, you're looking at financial accounting, financial statements, financial strategy. For the form performance pillar, we're looking at risk management and constructing budgets. And then the enterprise pillar is knitting that all together in terms of how finance interacts with the wider business modeling and managing people. Again, as I mentioned before, the last element of your journey is your practical experience requirements. But as mentioned, you'll be capturing that as part of your application to the NHS team that's going to be reviewing your applications. So by default, you'll be meeting a lot, if not most of the requirements to quite easily sign off and get your ACMA, CGMA designations. Now, the second option for you once you complete your bespoke training with Kaplan is the CIMA Finance Leadership program. This was launched on the 6th of September and is more assessment based. So unlike the standard professional qualification that I just talked through, instead of having objective test exams, which within the professional qualification there are 9, you do ongoing assessment-based guided learning. So this is why when you look at this structure, there's no columns or pillars per se, there's just levels. Because it's comprehensively all online and the topics are assessed continuously while you learn, it provides you with flexibility in the time that you designate to learn the qualification. But I want to assure you, by no means does it make it any easier. So the reason why I say this is because you've gone from 9 objective test exams and 3 case study exams to just having to take 3 case study examinations. The rest are ongoing assessment. But the content, the modules, the topics are the same as the professional qualification standard route. You still have end of topic assessments, which you need to get over 50% for to progress onto the next module. So the rigor behind your learning is still there. It's just, as I mentioned before, a more flexible way of learning our qualification. And that kind of feeds into consultation we had with students and employers around finding different ways pertaining to different learning styles of individuals being able to become professionally qualified. All the courses are online, just like the what's offered in the standard route through Kaplan. But as part of the finance leadership program, you subscribe for a 1, 2, or 3 year subscription. So depending on where you enter. So for instance, if you enter at the operational case study exam, the management and strategic level, we would say to look at maybe in having a 3 year subscription. If you enter at the management level, we would suggest you have 2 years subscription. But within that subscription, because it's all encompassing in terms of cost, there's no annual subscriptions and stuff that you need to provide. You get your registration, you get all your learning content, you get exam preparation, you get assessments, etc. So it's quite comprehensive in terms of everything that you get. Plus, you have access to an online dashboard, which captures how you're progressing, identifying, your strengths in knowledge and maybe areas where you need to revisit or spend additional time on enhancing that knowledge, to make sure you're 100% ready to sit the case study exam. Your employer through the FLP program also gets access to a dashboard. So you could use that to inform conversations that you're having, to explore how your depth and breadth of knowledge can be expanded or improved upon, just to increase the output of success that both of you are working towards. Your employer is there to support you, and obviously for yourself, you want to progress and qualify as quickly as possible. Just like the professional qualification standard route, you need to submit your practical experience requirements. But as I reiterated before, the approval process in terms of the evidence that you have to provide for your application will ensure that you're more or less there in terms of what you need to gain your ACMA, CGMA designation once your modules have been completed. I've also provided a link on this slide for FAQs around defining the FLP program, because I'm quite conscious we're not going to have enough time to do a complete presentation on that itself. Ultimately, having the 2 options in terms of how you complete the CIMA qualification once you finish your bespoke training and take your entry point case study exam means that that creates flexibility for you. Okay, a bit more context around the subscription. There's two elements to this. The first one is Skills Plus, which is fundamentally all the online stuff which I mentioned in the previous slide. And currently there's a 30% introductory discount for students that opt for that mode of completing our qualification. You've also got the Skills Premium option. And again, there's a discount of 20%. Both discounts are applicable up to the 31st of December this year. And so therefore makes it very cost effective versus the professional qualification standard route of studying this way. I'm now going to hand you over to Edward to go into more detail around the programme. Edward, are you there?
I am, Nicole. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Nicole, do you want me to take control, or are you going to move the slides through? Shall I
Let me see
request
if I
control?
can. Yes, can you do that?
Okay. Yeah,
Or should I give?
try. You give me control.
Hold on a minute. It's not actually giving me.
That's all right. Do you
Shall I
mind
do it then?
just,
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
do you mind
fine.
just moving them on as I go through? That'd be great. So really good to see so much interest in this program. It was successful last time. I think we had quite a few applications. We siphoned them down to a few. We had 15 people we put on the course, quite a lot of applications. So you'll get a sense of how there is an application process that is quite strict and is quite demanding. And of the 9 that took the exams, they all passed. So that's one, I think, pass. So a really good success rate once you get through the hurdles and get through the gateways. We've been keen to offer this again because the origins of this is to recognise that not everyone has been able to pass exams because of various circumstances. Either that could be their own circumstances, personal circumstances, certain barriers that they've faced as they've been going through their career. Maybe coming from qualifications or having some sort of barriers down to their social demographic, whatever issues that they may have experienced over time. Next slide, please, Nicole, if I could. So I've kind of led into that intro, and Nicole has outlined in quite some detail what exemptions you get, and then how those exemptions then lead on to the next phase, which is you sit the case study, you get the exemptions from the exams, you sit the case study, and then you go into further study to get to that qualification. Now, we take it up to the point of being onto the program, and Grace will put a link in, and I think she'll send out the brochure to everybody after this webinar. And that really will summarize in very simple terms, I hope, what we're doing to this stage. And that stage is that we'll get you onto the program if you pass all the requirements. If you're on that program, the relationship becomes between the students and CIMA, and then they can get into all that detail about, once you pass the case studies, what then happens next. So take a look at the brochure. It's quite, it really does kind of simplify and synthesize what we're trying to do and put it into bite-sized, chunkable, absorbable language and little bite-sized chunks. So that I recommend you go there as your first step to looking into it. Just the points that are on this slide. It's not a shortcut. I hope people don't think that it is a shortcut, because what we're trying to do is recognise the huge amount of work that people have put in over time on the job and the skills and competencies that they've got. And we want to recognise the fact that because of circumstances, they may not have been able to sit the exams. Therefore, we get exemptions for the exams, and then you can demonstrate those competent skills you've learned through the case study, and then take it further towards qualification. It's not an easy gig, absolutely not, because one, you have to go through a fairly rigorous process of selection. So we put through an application form, and you will need to sell your skills and experience. But before that, we'll be looking for 3 things overall. The first thing we'll be looking for, so we'll do an assessment within One NHS Finance, and then we'll pass it over to CIMA. CIMA will also need to be happy that the applicants have a really good chance of passing. Now, we do that because we don't want to devalue the qualification, absolutely not. We don't want any criticism that this is somehow an easy gig and this is a way to get around, a lot of hard work. And we've got reputation. We've got reputation for us. We've got reputation for the NHS. We've got reputation for CIMA, and maintain that. And therefore, if you look at the application form and you look at the process and you think this is, it's a bit lengthy and it's hard, and it's there for a reason, because you can't just get exemptions just very easy in life. So we'll be looking, once the applications come in, we'll be looking for 3 major things really. The first thing is that you've had a really good reason not to progress your studies. Just because you haven't got round to doing them is not a good enough reason to have not done them. So we'll be looking for that, an explanation of that. And then we'll be looking at the reasons for and a really good justification as to why you think it's going to be different this time. So you identified your barriers, you know why you didn't do it before. Now we want to know, well, what's different, and what you're going to have to convince the assessors that you are actually going to sit the exams, go through the courses and pass them, so that we can maintain that standard, maintain that level of success, and have this program as a real flagship program that delivers a really good output metric-based success. So we want to know what's going to be different and why it was different to what stopped you doing the exams before. And then, of course, we need to get into the competencies and skills. And so you'll need to provide some really good evidence that you have met the competence and you do have the skills that will allow you to sit the case study. If you're on the programme, Kaplan will do the bridge between where you are now. You would have gone through the exams and then sat the case study. And therefore, Kaplan's first stage of work with yourselves is to do that little bit of bridging work, so you're in a really good position to see the case study. So, and make sure you go beyond the competencies. So, well, okay, you can tick them all off, but you need to really demonstrate in the application. And we've allowed, I think it's a page per competency, and we're asking for 3 technical and 3 core, and I'll use that in a minute. And it's a real opportunity there to demonstrate that you've gone beyond just a tick box exercise, and you've got real life, real demonstrable, good examples of how you've met those competencies, gone beyond, not just tick them off, basic minimum. I've talked about the other 3 points, so could we go to the next slide, Nicole? Thank you. So this is what the application form looks like. The overview of what's required to be submitted. So on the left-hand side there, you've got the things that we need from yourselves, and we need an up-to-date CV. Nicole has gone through the various levels and the level of experience that we're expecting applicants to have. And then we will need a supporting case letter, speak, a cover letter, detailing why you're applying for the programme. And this will be where we're expecting really for you to demonstrate that why haven't I sat these exams before, not as far as I should have done, and why you think it's going to be different, and then provide some more evidence around supporting the competency that you. The self-assessment declaration confirming that the core competency framework has been met. So there's two lots of competencies. So there's the core competencies, which are general, and they're absolutely needed, and they're part of the golden thread that works through the NHS competencies. And then there's the technical competencies. And we need all the core competencies, but we don't need as many technical competencies depending on the level you're applying. Now, if you look at the self-assessment declaration, it tells you what we require. The technical. For the technical for level 2, we just need financial accounting and management accounting. For level 3, it's a bit more strategic level. It's the same ones, but we're expecting a level in all. The completed evidence of competencies form. So you got the CV, you got your supporting case letter. We will then need a declaration. We don't need to see the checklist. You don't need to send us that you've ticked off every single competencies. We just need a declaration that you actually have met them. And this will be signed as well by your manager and either the CFO or the deputy CFO to have that assurance process that you actually have met those competencies and are you're working at that level, if not beyond. We then need that evidence that I was talking about, that real kind of that colour behind those competencies. So you choose 3 from the core and you choose 3 from the technical, and you just give us examples of how you put that in practice and really developed and demonstrated those to a high level and a high standard. And then there's the last bit is just the sign-off forms. So there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements that form the application. The most complex bit obviously is going to be the evidence of competencies, which you'll need to get in, and you'll obviously want to spend some time on getting the support case letter exactly right, so it meets the kind of thing. Should we go to the next slide, Nicole? Probably not going to focus on this one too much because great that Nicole has talked about this. That I'm not going to focus on it at all. It's switched so quickly. Well, I think we're into frequently asked questions. I don't know, Grace, do you want to take some questions that have come up, or shall I just go through these because they may be common? What's coming up on the chat?
Yeah, I have been trying to answer questions just on the chat box as they come in. Let me just double check. So I think there was a couple of questions around, is the programme relevant for staff that are actually already training? I assume they mean the question if they're already training for CIMA. But then there was also another question around, can they use exams with other bodies to demonstrate the level that they're at as well?
So absolutely open to current CIMA students, and that's what it's designed primarily for. A common question that came up before is, can you use this to get an exemption, demonstrate your experience, and then you get an exemption for failed? That is not part of this program. If you have sat an exam and failed it, you need to go back, sit that exam, pass it, and then come back and think about what other exemptions you want and what. For other accountancy bodies, I'm not too sure.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, you go for that, Nicole.
Okay, that's fine. So in terms of other accountancy bodies, remember we're evaluating you for exemptions for your experience. Okay, not the another accountancy body. There is a route for that that you can apply for. So we would really focus on, obviously you can put down the accountancy body that you've been studying with, but what will be relevant to us is your experience. Obviously it's going to add value, okay? Yeah. But that's not how the decisions are made.
Yeah, all about the experience, and yeah, you can't translate across. Anything else, or shall I go through these very quickly?
Yeah, just one question that I wasn't able to answer. It was actually looking at the strategic level, which is promoted as CFO, CEO, or equivalent level. Someone's asked if you got, you know, that level of experience in terms of years and more, and you've actually maybe already passed the management level case study, but you're not in a CFO position. Are you able to apply at that level?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because we would so the NHS
Yes.
currently, you shouldn't actually be. I don't think you would find it very easy to find a job that is a CFO job that does not require you to be UK GAP qualified. Sorry, UK CCAB qualified. So absolutely, that is where this is headed for and directing to. But the level of experience we would expect to see is very, very high. We would expect to see some very, very experienced deputy CFO that runs the show and has been doing it for quite a long time, and maybe has hit a barrier because they can't get CFO jobs, because CFO jobs should in fact be qualified positions.
Brilliant, thanks, Edward.
I can't think of any organisation that would advertise a CFO job without being CCAB. In fact, I think that's probably true for deputies, but there will be some historical situations where people are on CCAB.
Brilliant. Just conscious of time, Edward. So do you want to run through some of the FAQs? Because I know that they're quite important. And then any more questions that come in the chat, we'll try and pick those up before we finish at 1. Yep. Thank you.
Can do. So how much does the programme cost? So roughly it's about 2,500. I think it's slightly under that amount. Now the relationship is between, like I said, it's our involvement in this is to look at those applications, get those applications assessed, and make sure we only pass off the very highest applications to CIMA, and then relate to Kaplan through the course. The relationship then passes over to them. Your organisation will directly contract with Kaplan, that programme, and pay for the programme through your organisation in whichever way you do. Now, what we do in our trust is that we support 75% of the students' fees. That may be different, and they may be willing to fund 100% or whatever, but 2,500 is roughly the programme cost. On completion, we'll be CIMA qualified. You won't be CIMA qualified on completion of the programme, because the programme only gets you to the next level, to the case study. So it gets you the exemption from the exams, then you go on to the case study, and then go on to the next level. Like I said,
and that's the reason why we refer to it as the bespoke training of the main programme. So once you've completed that with the 2005, you would then, as Edward said, have ongoing costs to pay depending on the learning route, which I covered. Go on, sorry.
So yeah, that's right. Yeah, so absolutely. Those forks in the road that Nicole explained about, depending on the learning route you would choose, and the costs associated and attached with those will differ beyond the programme. Will this be offered annually? As long as there's enough interest. So we said last year we would, and then and there has been enough interest. So here we are. What should I take following the commission? So that was explained by Nicole. So hopefully that's outlined. And beyond this programme, if people already want to get into the thinking about where they'll go after that first case study, then I'm sure we can help with Nicole to give you a lot more information and point you to the website. It's really clear on the website. If you go on the CIMA website, it actually explains it really, really well.
I think the benefit for you guys, sorry, Edward, I think the benefit for you guys, there's an element of consistency, because the bespoke training is delivered by Kaplan. If you go down the professional qualification standard route, obviously you've got Kaplan or other training providers. If you go down the financial leadership program and not for the Premium Plus, that's also delivered by Kaplan in partnership with CIMA. So again, you've got lots of options, but there's an element of consistency there. and all of the training providers that support NHS students in learning our qualification are approved by CIMA, on average get above average pass marks for students progressing through the qualification. So it's a win-win for all, really, regardless of the options that you consider. Sorry, Edward.
That's cool. Thank you for that. What is the expected time commitment? So intense, I would say. Like I said at the beginning and at the outset and introducing it, this isn't a shortcut. This isn't a way to think, well, you know, this is going to be an easy way for me to get a qualification, because there shouldn't be. Because we, like I said before, and I'm pains to explain this is not devaluing the program. This is absolutely just recognizing the fact that over time, people may not have been able to sit exams for various circumstances. Now that you can, now that we want time commitment, expect yourselves to be working quite intensely through that period up to the May exam.
So let me throw some statistics here in for Edward. On average, we expect about 4 to 6 hours, but that's very much dependent on the modules and the topics that you're covering. Remember, we're assessing you from an experiential perspective. So there's going to be some topics within the finance function where you're quite knowledgeable. And so there'll be peaks and troughs where you'll have some time. I don't want to say time off, but spare time where there's not a lot required in terms of your learning, but there are going to be other times where the content will be quite new to you, and so therefore it could exceed the 6 hours. So like anything within a working role, you're going to have peaks and troughs, and it's just around you managing your time effectively to make sure you're learning and retaining the knowledge that you need to be successful at the case study entry point that you're applying for.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, because who wants to sit exams? You know, bloody hell, we have to sit exams. But it's, you know, let's embrace this and take it, but let's not treat it lightly at the same time. So it's absolutely great, fantastic privilege. Take it on board, but know that, you know, with that comes a cost. Will the study schedule be delivered virtually in person? So I think it's a combination of both, isn't it, Nicole?
It's live online and recorded. So what live online means is that you'll join a class virtually and interact real time with the tutor and your peers that are learning the same module as you, but you'll also be able to go back and revisit that content from a recording, very similar to what we're doing now. So what that means, it creates, again, flexibility for some of you. If you join the live session, but for whatever reason had to drop off a bit earlier, you can go back and watch the recording. If you're unable to join at all, you've got the recording that you can refer back to, and you've got access to tutors if you have any questions, post those live online sessions that you can follow up with.
I think it's one of the really important things about this, and one of the good things that you do have access to the tutors. Is that the last slide, Nicole? We got another one, I think.
We got another one.
Yeah, one more. Can I? No, I think I covered that one. So if you've failed any CIMA exams, you do need to pass it before that particular exam before program. Exam on this course. So you won't fail exams on this course, because this is like I gave you a bit of the statistics on that. It was really, really good, and the reason why we go through this application process, and it's quite rigorous, is because we want to make sure that you're supported, but also that you're demonstrating the ability to get. That's not to say people won't exam, but if won't fail, because there may be situations where you fail. Tell me if I'm right, Nicole, but you do go back to the beginning and come off the program.
So what we've organised, and I just forgot to say, is that the alignment for the case studies means that for whatever reason, if you should fail it in May, the next exam in August is the same case study exam. So you don't need to relearn the content, you just need to prepare for the case study. And that's us making sure that we create an environment for you that's not onerous, in the sense that you know, worst case scenario, things can happen, but you've got that contingency window. And that's the reason why the first case study sitting windows are in May. But as Edward quite rightly said, we've got 100% pass mark on the programme at the moment, and we intend to keep it that way. Obviously, what is being delivered is working. So yeah, no need to be negative, but there is a contingency in place for you.
I wasn't negative.
I know you wasn't.
So, can I understand for myself then? Just so if you did fail the case study, because it won't be an exam, will it be the case study? So you go on the next sitting, but then what happens? Didn't pass as the worst case scenario.
Oh gosh. So if
you would come off the program, wouldn't you?
You
wouldn't
would,
then,
yeah.
You'd have to go right back and pass
Yeah.
those exams and sit through. Right.
Well, no, well, technically, yeah, because they were awarded as exemptions. So if you don't pass the case study, then yeah, you would have to, yeah.
All right. So let's be absolutely clear. So if they were awarded exemptions, are they do they have that pass? Do they come with that pass category? Do they categorize as in pass? As in, I have passed them.
Okay, so the exemptions were awarded on their experience on the basis that they passed the case study exam. If they don't pass the case study exam or the resit, then the exemptions do not apply.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's really clear. And can I apply if I'm new to the NHS? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. If you go through the competencies and with the application form, well, the NHS competencies are available to everyone, and I'm hoping, trust that you are all familiar with them and have seen them. If you go onto them, we will send a copy with pack for the applicants, and if you go through it, you will see that the core competencies are very generic, and we would expect all accountants to have those sorts of competencies. The technical competencies are also largely things that all accountants should know and have, but there'll be some technical competencies that allude to specific NHS things. You may not be able to tick those off, but overall, and we say as a rough guide, if you could tick off 80% technical competencies in a particular subject, then assume that you've substantially met competence. I hope that's all. Conscious of time, Grace.
It's just one, yeah.
One more. Yeah.
One more is because Grace quite kindly shared the dates with me. So these are the summary of the key dates for you guys, which was Grace was referring to at the beginning of the session, and Edward alluded in black and white. So you've got that as something to document.
Brilliant, thank you. I was just looking through the chat, so I have been trying to answer as we go, but there have been a couple that I'd like to ask as well, so that everyone can hear. So there's a question around, if an application isn't successful at one of the points, say strategic, can you reapply for another level at a different time?
Yes, I guess there's no reason why not. Absolutely.
But that would be when we open for future cohorts, though. So if you were to come back, I think
even then so I wouldn't expect somebody to apply for strategic if they haven't set the management. So if you're going for the full exemptions, are going straight up to strategic, then we might do, and we've done this before. I remember in the last set, we got some applications for the management, and we said, okay, it doesn't quite fit with us, the experience.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Management, and we dropped you down to operational and gave an option to say, do you want to apply for the operational in this cohort? So if we get an application for strategic, and as long as you've filled it all in, we could then suggest, well, do you want the management if you haven't passed those?
Spot on. That's what you did the last time. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think that probably relates to the next level down as well. If someone applies at management level, but it might actually be a better fit for operational, they will go back with that option as well. Brilliant. Okay, thank you. And there was a couple of questions around, I think, for people already studying. So someone's asked, I'm currently sitting the MCS and I've been in the NHS for over 10 years within the financial management function. Is it worthwhile applying for the strategic exemptions once the MCS is passed, or would it be better to just get on with the remaining 4 papers? Maybe one for you, Nicole.
I would say if you're taking the management case study exams, it's better just to complete on the professional qualification standard route. To be honest, when you think about it, we're assessing your experience, and then what you're learning is all the exams that you've already taken, if I contextualize it that way. So retrospectively, you're going over what you've already learned and already passed exams on, and you're so far up the qualification, there's very little value in going in at the strategic. Remember, because your entry points are the case studies, so your next entry point would be the strategic level. So just continue and finish. Just be a bit more disciplined so it doesn't take you another 10 years, whoever it is, okay? Because you're nearly at the end. A year, maybe a year out before you fully qualify, okay?
Brilliant, thanks, Nicole. And there's a question around workplace support and commitment around this. So what is it that, you know, what sort of conversations should people applying to take part be having? We obviously ask for line manager and finance director or deputy finance director sign off. So obviously participants applying are going to have a conversation around this. But what is it that we sort of recommend as well to employers?
So from my perspective, it will be if the organisation is serious about upskilling our staff and training and development, and if we want to have a fit for purpose finance function across the NHS that is feeding talented individuals that can apply for CFO positions, which we should all be doing, then I would say that support should be absolutely sound and restricted. If my students were on this, if any of my people were on this, I would be saying, yeah, what do you need and how can I help get through it? And if that isn't the case, then have more detailed conversations with you. And now I understand that, you know, there will be issues around year end because this goes through the April period, but you should be looking to either saying realistically, yes, we support you and we can get you through this and we'll do as much as we can to help an organisation, the organisation-student relationship. And, you know, if it means that whatever reason, the organisation is not able to commit because it just happens to be it's going to be a crappy period over year end or whatever, then you may want to think about deferring. I would hope, I trust, and I believe that most organisations would absolutely 100% be behind it and getting them qualified for the organisation and for the individual and for the NHS as a whole.
Thanks, Edward. And then there's been a couple of questions around how many places are available for the cohort. So
there's no hard and fast, but we're working with Kaplan on the basis that they can cope with roughly about 20. But if we give them notice, I'm not sure, Nicole, whether we can do more than that.
Well, it's staggered. So it's staggered. Your first response was spot on. So it's for us to go back with the number, and then they can accommodate it. But as Edward said, the process is quite rigorous. I think last intake we had over 100 people on the call, and the difference between submission and approval, we ended up with short of 20, and there was over 30 admissions. So the reality of it is it's for us to go back to Kaplan with the final number once we have it. But Edwards and Grace has always taken the position there isn't a hard and fast number or top level number in terms of who can apply. Just make sure you follow the process of making sure your application is exactly what Edward and the panel's looking for to maximise your chances of being approved.
Yes, so from my perspective, I go back to the last answer to the last question around, I really hope that organisations and students and everyone else are really behind this. So for me, we had 40, fantastic, and then we'll see if we can get Kaplan to do, if they can accommodate that. The reality of the situation is, if we look at last year's, that it won't be as high as that because of the sifting out. But if we've got a different bunch on here, and out of the number of people that are on the call, if we've got loads that can apply and be successful, that'd be brilliant. That'd be fantastic.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Just conscious of time, so just let
Yeah.
everyone know. Yeah, well, we'll send out full details in a brochure, hopefully by the end of this week, which will include the application process, the costs, and all the information that you need. Obviously, if you do have any other questions, just send them through to us centrally at 1HS Finance, or to me directly if you've got my email. But we will send out an email to everyone that's attended today, and also to those who have registered their interest, with everything that you need. So that's it from us. Thank you so much to Nicole and to Edward for presenting all the information today. And thanks to everyone for attending and joining and registering your interest. We really hope that that a lot of you are interested and send through your applications. And as mentioned, if you do have further questions, just let us know. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and look forward to the applications. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.